The Department of Human Services says there are nearly 2,000 kids in the foster care system right here in Kern County. 23 ABC's Callan Hobman joins us live this morning, taking an in-depth look at the challenges these children face and how you can help. Callan?
If you don't know anyone connected to the foster care system, you might think it doesn't affect you. But it turns out in several ways the foster care system impacts all of us. But it's not a lost cause. Human trafficking, incarceration, homelessness. You probably have some thoughts on at least one of these hot topics. But what if they all shared a common denominator? Well, the nonprofit Bakersfield Angels founder MCCLAIN says they do.
This is an issue we can all rally around. And if anybody has an issue with our homeless population, our prison population, the fact that our very own children are being sex trafficked in this county, here's your chance.
McLean says all of these issues connect to the foster care system, and you can change that just by volunteering your time. She says one of the biggest problems foster care children face is a lack of mentorship, something Bakersfield Angels volunteers provide.
Every child deserves at least one healthy adult that knows the color of their eyes and the passions of their heart. And that is not a huge ask, Bakersfield. It's not a huge ask, but we just need to raise awareness. We need to be talking about it.
McLean says without that kind of relationship, foster kids are less likely to use our county's resources and more likely to end up on your neighborhood streets. Let's talk about this visually. These are the streets of Kern County that you walk every day. These represent our homeless population. According to McLean, 50% of this population is connected to our foster care system. She says giving those kids a mentor could cut this population in half. Child guidance therapist TAHLUA GOOSBY was a foster youth herself. She says a lack of stable relationships can also lead to gang activity.
Sometimes you can say even our boys who are taken into gangs, it has that appeal of family. Sometimes you hear that, this is my family.
And McLean says that desire for family can lead to human trafficking.
Why do you think these kids end up human trafficked? Because finally an adult is paying special attention to it. These kids are craving connection, and it doesn't matter how they get it.
Volunteering for foster youth doesn't stop at giving them healthy relationships. Angie Boiler says CASA volunteers like her also speed up the court process.
It just takes longer than it should, but that's where the CASA, comes into play, because we're able to gather a lot more evidence, like information, and, be objective.
This can help minimize how often foster children move from home to home, something Kernbridge's Youth Homes Vice President Jim Vanderswan says delays their progress in school, hurting their chances of a successful future.
They also don't then have the education, a well-rounded education like you and I do, to fall back on. So it's harder to get a job. It's harder to stay out of some trouble.
Human Services spokesperson JANA says kids switch between multiple homes because oftentimes foster parents don't feel prepared to handle the trauma that the children come with.
Sometimes when the children have behaviors due to their trauma, the foster parents get fatigued with that. It's challenging for them, and they may feel like giving up. And that is, it's just further damaging to a child in foster care when they have to get moved several times.
McLean says foster parents can also feel alone and unsupported, eventually closing their homes to foster children.
I've heard from several mamas that I know that have fostered and gone on to foster and adopt. It can feel very isolating, because when you talk with other parents that are going through experiences with their children, it's just not the same experience.
And Vanderswan says COVID-19 has proven to be another challenge for foster families. He says visitations with biological parents had to go completely virtual when the pandemic first began.
For a 3, 4, 5-year-old, it's really hard for them to understand why they can only see mom through a video screen all of a sudden.
They are now able to happen in person with face masks and social distancing. And Vanderswan says Kernbridge's Youth Homes recently opened 2 centers that allow safe visitations.
We're thankful that visits have resumed for the kids' sake and for the parents' sake. But it's still a challenge.
Meanwhile, McLean says you can make a direct impact through the Bakersfield Angels Love Box program. Volunteers are paired with a foster family, and each month they bring care packages, spending time building strong relationships with the entire family.
These kids come with a lot of baggage and trauma, and so it's not a walk in the park to raise them, but we're trying to come alongside with support so then those children have placement stability. Those families say, I can do this for another year, and we just get to beat one more odd after another.
McClain says it's up to us, not laws or policies.
I don't think this is a government issue. I think the government is doing all they can with policies and laws and procedures, but their hands are tied at some level because there's limited funding, there's, all limited resources, and so it's our job to take care of our kids. And I believe that with my whole heart, and I believe it's doable. This is just right here in Kern County, 2,000 kids. This is doable. Like, we can do better.
And even if you can't volunteer, CASA Executive Director Amy DIXON says just learning and caring about Kern County's foster care system can make a difference in itself.
One thing that we can do is really have this compassion for those in our community that are hurting, and understand that children in foster care are our future and we can invest in them. It really does help us all by contributing, right? It doesn't just help the foster child, it helps us all in our community by giving back.
We'll have a link to all of those nonprofits that we just mentioned on our website, turnto23.com. For now, here in Bakersfield, Callan Hodman, 23ABC, connecting you.